Today on Make America Gospel Again, we have veteran Rivera. He spent 10 years serving our country as a Marine. And on January 6th, he peacefully protested. Now, everybody knows that Biden did not get elected, that the election was stolen. So, of course, the American people are going to protest that. But our government locked him up for 9 months for peacefully protesting a stolen election. What JD's story has shown me is that we are in a one sided war, that our government is not for us. The FBI is against us. And if we do not take our stand as American patriots now, our freedoms and everything that we love is going to be taken from us. He had over 40 agents with barrels pointed at his face. A man who served this country attacked like that. Let's get into this interview with JD. JD Rivera, American patriot, January 6th, peaceful protester. Thanks for coming on the show, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
Very glad to
that's
be here.
awesome, dude. Number one, thank you for your service. 10 years in the Marines.
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh, dude. How does it feel? And we'll get into your story a little bit,
Mhm.
but you served our country for 10 years, right? One of
Yes.
the toughest branches of our government. I mean, you are one of our go-to guys. You are, the Marines are part of what makes America feel safe. You served our country for 10 years, and then you had to spend jail time for being at the Capitol. What was that like?
Well, I'm going to correct you real quick. It was prison. A
Prison. Yeah,
lot.
prison. My bad.
Not in just jail. It was federal prison. And um, the worst part about it, and I can back up for you a little bit. I was on January 20th, inauguration day, when Biden was inaugurated. We had over 40 plus agents come through my house with rifles drawn, pointed in my face. So knowing that I was on the side of that, those barrels at one time when I was in Iraq, it was pretty heartbreaking to see a fellow American doing it to myself, treating me as a domestic terrorist, treating me as a terrorist, looking for me like I was somebody who was trying to overthrow the government. So it was definitely disheartening, definitely heartbreaking. It put it made me truly understand what's happening to America. But yeah, it was nothing I want anybody else to have to go through. But we see what's going on.
From your perspective, right? What is happening to America? What do you see?
The government's taken over. It's getting controlled. You know, they want it to be a socialist country. They're doing a pretty good job at doing what they need to do. The first thing is dividing the country, and we've had too many people. We've had too much infighting and too much division, and the government's just trying to take complete control. Right? It's the elites that want to be in full control, whatever it is. They already are. The difference is they're going to take more control away from us as Americans. America has had the longest running constitution out of any other constitutions out there in the world. And unfortunately, the world doesn't like it, and they're ready to trample on us and, take away our fundamental constitutional rights. And they're doing it. They're doing it right in front of our face. First Amendment rights no longer something that even exists in court, at least, and they're obviously trying so hard to take away our Second Amendment rights. So the first two amendments that are most important in America, they're doing a great job at trying to take it and keep it away from us. So once they dismantle the Constitution, I mean, it's all fair game from there. So, you know, I don't know exactly what to expect here in the near future, but I can tell you that we're either in mid or pre-Civil War or mid or pre-Revolution, and a lot of people have waited so long. We told people from the beginning, look, if they're going to do it to people like me, they're going to start doing it to people like you, and they started to throwing people in prison, throwing people in jail for their First Amendment rights for protesting, but because we're protesting something that they don't want us to protest, they find a way to throw us in prison or throw us in jail and keep us quiet.
Exactly. It's okay to protest for Hamas. It's okay to protest, and tear down sculptures. But you can't take your scooter and do a burnout on an LGBT
Exactly.
rainbow. Otherwise, that's a felony.
It's a
You
hate
can't
crime. All of a sudden, it's a hate
protest
crime
anything.
somehow.
Exactly. You can't protest anything against the left.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it's, here at Make America Gospel Again, it's, we believe it's deeper. It's a much deeper issue. than even just socialism right now. This is something that's been going on for a long time. Our battle's not against flesh and blood, but against principalities of power and might and dominion. Now, for what we know of who's really behind this and pulling the strings, as the people, I don't know, but I know that the devil is behind this because he
Yes.
hates America. He hates that we have been the proponent of the gospel for the entire world. Because when America falls for the gospel, everything will fall. You see that Christianity banned in China and other places like that. That's what it's going to be. I was on the Alex Stone podcast earlier today, and we talked a little bit about it. And I told him, I said, we've got if churches and people don't stand up, we've got about 50 years, probably even less, before Christians are herded up like cattle and put into concentration camps
Yeah.
because of the truth. Where it's now, we're in a one-sided war right now. We've got to realize it, and we have to stand up. Being in that one-sided war, take me to January 6th, because there's a lot of confusion that CNN and all of these people put out. Once we've seen the actual videos, it's amazing. It's amazing how the left and the media tries to spin things. What really happened that day when you were there?
Man, let me explain something. There's a reason why they don't show you any video footage from January 5th and everything before what happened at the Capitol, because that would dismantle their narrative of the hateful crowds and the protesters wanting to burn stuff down and all that other jargon that they're talking about. But when we got there, I mean, you could see in my video footage, I'm on the Capitol building, and you could see my footage. There's well over 500,000 people in the crowd. I mean, this place was packed. It went all the way back to just all the way back to the ellipse, I believe it was, that you could see in my video how many Americans, patriotic Americans, that were there for President Trump and for the American movement, that they were there. And the whole thing that started it were the police officers throwing flashbangs and things like that into the crowd. Look, I did 10 years in the Marine Corps. 3 of those years, I was a sergeant of arms, sergeant of guard at MCRD San Diego for the riot patrol platoon. And one of the things that we're taught is if there's a riot, you don't throw it into the crowd. You want to disperse the crowd, so you throw it in front of you. But here's the thing: when they were throwing flashbangs, they were throwing gas grenades and everything else they were throwing it straight into the middle of the crowd. They didn't know what they were doing. They were the ones that started the chaos. Now, anybody who knows, whenever stuff starts going crazy, it just takes a little bit for people to start losing their mind and figuring out what's going on. At that time, people were trying to protect themselves and protect other individuals. These police officers were just there. They were just there to antagonize people. I mean, I got it on film of one of the police officers going like this, saying, "Come on, you want some? Come get it." I don't understand how that at all is not trying to antagonize people, but that's what you saw a majority of the time when Americans were sitting there with their fundamental First Amendment rights, protesting what happened at the Stop the Steal rally. They try to make it out. The pictures, first off, the pictures you see with the front or the back of the Capitol lit up and flames and everything out. People need to remember that those pictures, the reason why there's like that is because the Capitol Police and DC Police caused that to happen. There weren't Trump supporters burning stuff down. This was stuff that the Capitol Police did to themselves. I mean, it was so bad that the Capitol Police were pepper spraying and gassing themselves. They had no idea what was going on. They were just kind of just throwing things wherever they wanted and hoping they would land somewhere. It's the way that the left has made it as if we are the ones that started it. We are the ones that created the chaos. That's the biggest lie. But they had to run with something. They had to find a way to impeach Trump, and they had to find a way to make us look bad. And for half of America, or less than half of America, they did that. They did exactly that.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, it really does go to show that we are on a one-sided war, with the deep state, and the media, right? So understanding all of that, right? You see what's happened. You see what happened to you.
Hmm.
What is your message to the world now, to make a change to this? What are those steps? Because honestly, it seems, for me as a multi-business owner, a father of three, the time that I have in a day is slim to none. Like
Right.
it really is. But I maybe get 45 minutes to myself. How does somebody go around changing the government and changing everything where we're at right now? What do you tell people?
I don't know. There is no change in the government, really. They're big. They've gotten a lot bigger at this point. Again, going into the only way to fix it, for me is potentially a civil war revolution. Now I'm not calling for it, but that's the only way that things are going to get right. Americans
Yeah, but
have
who do you
actually
but in that scenario, right, I think,
Mhm.
all of us are willing to fight for our country. We are, but who do you even fight?
That's the problem. That's the problem, and then that's why I say it's hard to say because the government. When we talk about the government, we're talking about everybody, right? We're talking about the left, the right, as far as politicians go. We don't know who's on our side. We don't know, who we would be going after. We don't know what we would be fighting for. That's kind of what happened with January 6th. So I'm baffled in what's happening because I don't know. I don't have there was a time when I had a pretty solid answer as what needs to be done. At this point in time, because of everything I've gone through, the best advice I give people is to seek God, seek Jesus. I mean, literally, that's the best advice. That's what got me through everything that we went through. That's what got me through my prison sentence. That's what God redeemed us after we got back out. It's definitely a time for individuals to start looking for Him. Start like I mean, what you doing? Make America gospel again. That's exactly what needs to happen. Everyone needs to get back into the Word. Everyone needs to live like Christ the best they can and show Christ's love. Other than that, I mean, we can't rely on these human. We can't rely on humans. We can't rely on people in power. The only person we're ever going to be able to rely on is Jesus. That's it. And to be honest, everything that we've done because of centering Him in our lives, things have been good for us. We didn't bite the bullet and follow suit with everybody else on these J6 paths where there's all these again infighting with people going on, and somebody wants clout here and somebody wants clout there. We focus purely on Him, and that has brought us so much solitude in life by completely focusing on Him. Again, I've been able to talk to other J6ers going to prison who've been able to focus on the same thing I did, turn our prison sentence into a missions trip. Christianity is going to be the thing that saves America. I mean, it's learning about Jesus and what He wants us to do, making disciples. But people are going to have to want that. We're in biblical times. We're obviously in those times, and for me, I don't dread it because that just means that we're getting closer to meeting Jesus, right? So the sooner He comes, the better off we are because we get to go home. But other than that, I mean, it's hard to say what we can do here, how we can make the government better for us. You know, Elected officials, we got to pray for better elected officials that will actually put God first before anything else, and hope that's actually what they do.
Yeah,
Outside of that,
but we see what happened with the last election. There's no way Obama or not, Obama. There's no way Biden got that many votes.
oh Biden,
Uh, yeah,
that's what we
it
call him,
it
oh Biden.
Oh, Biden, yeah, there's no way he got that many votes, so we see the lack of integrity in the
Yes.
election, and then you see some of these Democrat states, how to this lizard-looking lady, Nancy Pelosi, how has she been there that long? And you look at these people, like, just these terrible people, and you realize that the voter fraud is rampant, that our elections are not secure, and it's evil, but you're 100% right, and that's what we believe, to where it's like, all right, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, that you restore their land. And I don't know if that's a possibility for America. We have how many people, babies being aborted
Yeah.
every single day. We've got little kids getting their parts chopped off,
Yeah.
because of these evil doctors and these evil parents, pushing this gender identity. I don't know how it's possible except for a mass revival. I know if anybody can do it, it's going to be God,
Yeah.
because there really is no other way. And so every day it's like, all right, God, place me exactly where you want me to do. If I'm a small piece in this puzzle, you show me exactly what you want me to do. I'm going to do it, because this is way too big, way too over my head, because nobody really knows.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. You were talking about the gender confusion, right? One of the things that I've realized too is um, here's the thing: is people who are gay and lesbian, they claim that they were born that way, right? They claim that that's how God made them, but then they completely talk about the LGBTQ being born the way they are. But then you have these transgenders who are saying, "I wasn't born this way. That's why I'm converting myself from man to a woman, woman to a man." So which one is it,
Yeah.
right? We know as Christians we were born exactly the way God made us, right? So when you're sitting there trying to say they they're constantly contradicting themselves all the time. And again, it's recently they did the selective service. You saw that they put that out there for the automated selective service for men from 18 to 25 years of age. I
Yep.
don't know if you saw that. Okay, so they're talking about women doing it as well too, and there's a win in it, right? For Christianity or for God in general, there's a win in life if they were to do the selective service for women, and there was a draft, God forbid there would be, but if there is a draft, right, these individuals who normally would abort their child every time they get pregnant, to avoid a draft at all, they would have to get pregnant and stay pregnant full term to see these babies out. So for me, I'm just like, go for it, let's do it, because these women are not going to have an abortion because they're not going to go fight for America's values or what we're fighting for. So the
Yeah.
best outcome of that is them carrying a baby to term and that baby's life, being preserved versus being taken away. So there's good that could potentially come from it. And that's why I'm just like, I get things are happening very crazy, but there's also still a lot of good that could potentially come from this. But again, like you said, the only thing that's going to save what we call America is a mass revival. And I don't know where it is. I don't know where it's going to come from. I just don't know. And I'm just like I'm just, a pawn in the game of chess and hoping that I'm put in the right place.
Yeah. No, I think you are. I mean, in God, if you would look at all the stories, Gideon 300 versus I think it was like 175,000,
Mhm.
uh, whatever that that big number was, right? David versus Goliath.
Yep.
This is nothing new to God. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. Um, for me, my prayer is, am I worried about preserving something that isn't preservable? Right? I don't want to be so gung ho about something if that's not even really gonna happen, right?
Right.
Especially with all the atrocities and everything happening in America. And Americans are stupid now. I mean, you look at our education versus the Chinese
Yeah.
versus some of these other countries, and even just the work ethic. You look, dude, and I mean, I go to it's all different, bro. It's to me, it really is. It seems all over. You go, it used to be enjoyable to go to a restaurant, at places and things. You go, people are so rude now. The energy
Yeah.
level of everybody is so down. People suck. Like it's just like this really is terrible, especially for how good we've had it, right? We have constant entertainment at our fingertips. The if you I've seen a study, if you make $32,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of the entire world. Even the poorest of us have it so incredibly good, and yet we are so miserable. So regardless of politics or anything, if you look at the people that we're putting out into the marketplace, into the world, we don't, we really don't have that long left because it's just not, we're producing consumers and not producers. And there's no way that a country can sustain.
Right. We're
So
producing quantity over quality. I mean,
exactly. So it's just not a possibility going forward. So without massive revival, America itself will end regardless. Especially I mean, you see these gay people and these things that they're putting into Congress. They're putting trans military leaders. Like it is a bad comedy show.
that's the hugest joke. As soon as I saw that kind of stuff, I knew it was over. I knew we were going the wrong. I mean, I saw it coming when I was in the Marine Corps. I want to say in 2009, 2008. I was stationed in MCRD San Diego, and we finally had the very first female Marine brigadier general who was in charge of MCRD San Diego. First time ever. Mind you, MCRD San Diego was Marine Corps boot camp for all males at the time. General Salinas was her name, and she softened up everything about what the Marine Corps was because of her, being a woman and her values. So there's things that certain, drill instructors couldn't say certain things to recruits. They couldn't call a water bowl because that's what dogs drink out of. So you got to call a canteen. Like she took military terms out of it because it was offensive or derogatory. She softened it, and I'm just like, dude, is this really what the Marine Corps is going to? And I saw that long ago, so I was expecting things to turn for the worse, but I never expected us to have generals being transgender running our military. That I didn't see that coming, but we are in America where anything can happen now. And once I saw that, I knew we were in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct. And so We're gonna see. This is God's playbook. It's God versus Satan. It's not.
Yeah,
Was I? I'm so proud to be in America. I'm glad I was born in the greatest country, in history. At the end of the day, we work for one king. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
And that is our focus. So, JD, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I've got one more question for you
Yep.
though. I was really impressed what you said when you went to prison. You turned that into a basically a missionary journey. Walk
Mhm.
me through that.
So, when I was arrested, we I'm just gonna be transparent. When everything was going on through January 6th, me and my wife were struggling. We were struggling maritally. There's a lot of things going on, and January 6th, sometimes it takes something chaotic to bring people closer together, right? COVID was one of those things. January
Yeah.
6th was mine and my wife's. January 6th helped me and my wife realize that we are best of friends. We are each other's, person, and that God put us together for a reason. And from that moment on, we made sure, like, no matter what happens, we're going to put Christ in the center of all this. So we did. So the entire time, being dealt with the feds and people following me, being on TSA, all that stuff, my kids, knowing that dad, has been set up by the feds and all this is going on. My kids are young. We were transparent with them what was going on. So when they found out, all of my kids were in DC when when I went to DC to be charged, to be sentenced, excuse me. And for them, they already had a grasp on who God was, that they knew God was going to walk us through this all. It was sad that dad wasn't going to be there, but we have a great foundation. We've built that foundation with him. So for my daughter, who had it the roughest, that's what we talked about. Hey, this is a I'm going to prison. That's where I'm going. But where I'm going to be able to shine a light where the light hasn't been shown. We're going to turn this into a mission trip. This is going to be Daddy's first actual mission trip. I asked God for something. I asked him to put me through something, and this is it. This is where He wants me to be. So be it. So we were able to focus on God the entire time that we went through it. And it was tough at first, because I can tell you the very first day that I went in, man, as soon you've heard the closing of the gates in jail, right? You've heard that noise. That's real, man. And when you hear that for the very first time and you realize your freedom's gone, it cuts you deep. And for the first time in those 2.5 years, 2, 3 years, however long it was, for that short bit of moment, I didn't feel God's presence, and it scared me. And I felt alone. I felt really alone. And so I just kept praying throughout the entire process, because when you go to prison, they treat you like you've been a convict all your life. So they treat you like everybody else. You're nothing to them. I go in there not knowing anything. I have my guard up, don't know what's going on, thinking I'm about to get jumped. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And I'm just sitting there praying, man, just talking to God, asking, hey, please, I know you're there. I just can't hear you. I just don't feel you right now. Give me a sign. I just need to know what I need to do at this point. And then shortly after, there's a guy upstairs who yelled, hey, we're having prayer call. Come up here if you want prayer. And I'm just like, there it was. That was it, man.
I love
So I
that.
went up there, went to the prayer call. And mind you, my first 2 months, I was in solitary confinement. So we got about 15 minutes out every now and then for 2 months. And for those 15, 20 minutes that we'd get out, I ended up running prayer. And we ended up having, I mean, we're talking about a little 10 by 10 room in a what they called the library, where we had maybe 20, 30 men at one time, non-English speaking men coming up there, that we were leading, because we were just focusing and centering on God. And the crazy thing is, like, I understood. I was in there on misdemeanor charges, and it's the bogus charge they gave me. But these guys that were in prison, these were some pretty evil people, very evil people. What they've done, what they've been through. But God put me in prison not to judge them, but to bring them closer back to Him. And I can honestly say that I was very successful in helping people realize their identity back in Christ. What they do with it is on them, right? One of my favorite ones was a Muslim man he was a Colombian guy who was considered to be Muslim, and during Ramadan, the other Muslims wouldn't let him pray with them or eat with them, because he was Colombian and not from Afghanistan or Iraq or anywhere in the Middle East. So I told him, hey, look, I'll do Ramadan with you. We'll fast together. We'll pray together if you're cool with that. And he loved it, right? All I was doing was showing the love of Christ. That's it. That's all I did. And it didn't take long after me leaving where he sent me a letter explaining that he ended up getting baptized in prison. So he came back to Christ just from me showing that. And That was exactly that's what God needed me there for, right? There's plenty of times where my wife was just like, I don't know why God still has you there, but whatever it is, it's probably for a good reason. My buddy Brandon Gross, he was another guy. You know, I was able to speak life back into him. He got back home and he's back in the church. It's just there's a lot of great things that came out of prison for me as a human being, being able to say that I did do something for Christ. I did do something with God for God. And I can actually say that I did lead someone back to Christ. Now, whether or not they stay, that's on them, right? It's their salvation, not mine. But God literally had me there for a reason. And He wants me to tell my story for a reason because at the end of the day, man, I mean, it's all about Him. So was it rough? Of course. I missed my family, missed my kids, but we did have him centered the entire time. He took care of my family. He grew us spiritually. I got to read the Bible twice. Have so much time on my hands. Still don't understand a lot of it. Got to go back through and read it again. I would love to basically be I was hoping to come out of prison a theologian, but that didn't happen. But it is what it is. But it did draw me closer to him. I was able to focus so much time on him. It was a blessing to be taken out of the world and put into something like that because I didn't have anything to stop me from focusing on just Jesus. I was able to put my prayers, my thoughts in the Word. I was able to walk the track and just think about it, hear worship. Like it was, 100% of the time, that's all I had to do. I didn't have the real world out here with worrying about bills or what's going on with this person or being somewhere at a certain time. I was able to focus on God the entire time. So for me, that was a huge win.
It sounds
I
that's that I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kinda nice.
it, I mean, I don't want people to go to prison to do that. I wish people would be able to have an opportunity. Like you said, you've only have 45 minutes of a day to spend on yourself. Imagine being able to do that 24 hours, you know what I mean, outside of
Yeah.
sleeping. But if you're able to put that kind of focus on one thing, it's all about consistency. When we work out, it's all about consistency. You got to continuously be in it and be a part of it to be with it. And God was allowing me to do that. He needed me to be that warrior for him at that time. So again, it's all positive, man. They couldn't hold me down. They couldn't break me. They couldn't break my faith. It made it extremely stronger. And that's just what I hope comes out from a lot of other Christians that are going through this. That if they do have to go to prison, if they have to go, make it a missions trip. Don't worry about it being in prison. Be there, be a light, spread the gospel the best way you can, and God will provide the rest and do the rest for you. That's the
That's
only
right.
thing. Excuse me. That's the only thing we can do. But it's possible. And there's
Yeah.
multiple people who have reached out to me who said the same thing because they've heard the story and they've done the exact same thing. And I'm happy to know that individuals are doing the exact same thing. So, yeah, you can't keep a good Christian down, man. Someone who's
No, it's
devout.
a and it's what I want people to realize is that this is a small taste of what is to come, and
Yep.
I'm not by any means, lighthearting it, a 6 to 9-month sentence in federal jail. You look at how the early church was persecuted, one man was thrown into a
Mhm.
leather bag filled with snakes and scorpions and then thrown into the ocean to drown.
Right.
That's the kind of persecution that the devil likes. And if we give him any more ground, the kind of persecution that we're going to face for opposing the left and opposing the new world order is going to be, this is peanuts compared to what is to come. So JD,
Yeah.
you are a true patriot, brother. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. Most of my social media keeps getting banned from all my stuff, but my Instagram it's me JD underscore Riv on Instagram, and then that's really the main one. I just got my Twitter X account back and my new TikTok, but most of my stuff is going straight to Instagram. So if you want to find me and keep up with me, it's there. Um, I have a video that's pinned. If you do go to my Instagram, please watch it, share it with people so they can see what's going on. You'll be able to see my story, our story, and again, it's just my hopes that people see how much God has been there for us and through it, and they can follow suit.
I love it, dude. JD, thanks for coming on, brother.
Jake, appreciate you, bud.